Well, hello there. My name is Robin Norgren, and welcome to my class titled How to Wake Up. Um, there's so many things going on in the world, and this idea of waking up, and everyone's like, be woke. And, what does that mean, really? I know for me, what it means is if I'm kind of stuck in a space in my life and I'm trying to find a way out, the same mindset, the same ways of approaching problems or circumstances, they just don't seem to get at what it is. That I'm trying to come to. I'm trying to find answers. I'm trying to find clarity. I'm trying to find wisdom. I'm trying to find peace, right? And so in this class, you will be given tools that I hope will help to awaken you to the world in front of you, to the life that you're living right now, and give you the tools to change, grow, or leave things that no longer serve you. So, what caused me to create this class is about 12 years ago. Well, not 12, a little less than 12 years ago, I came across this book called Inner Excavation by Liz Lemereau, and I actually completed the whole course. So here it is, 2012, so 10 years ago. And so I thought on this 10-year anniversary, I would love to go through and share what I have experienced in those 10 years' time after I completed this book. So it's based loosely on the book, so you can get the book, but you don't necessarily have to. But I have it on my bookshelf because I really have enjoyed it and do turn back to it from time to time. But what you'll need will actually all be in the resources found in this class. So the only thing you would have to gather is just a notebook or a journal, maybe pens and paper, some washi tape. You will need to have access to a printer so that you can print off some of the resources that I have, or you can simply just jot down notes in the notebook. That is definitely up to you. But finally, you will need to have the ability to take photographs. So if you have some extra photographs that laying around that you can use for this course, that'll be fine as well. You do need some pictures or photographs though to really I don't know, find value in the class. So I can't wait to see you in the classroom. I'm excited to take you on the journey, and as I give you the tools to go on this journey, I will be going right alongside you. So see you in the classroom. Well, welcome to session one called A Day in Your Life. So I'm going to go over briefly what it is that we're going to be taking from this lesson today. And then I want to read you an essay and have a little bit of discussion about it, okay? So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at a day in our lives. So you can choose to go about this in a couple of different ways. And the goal is just to start to slow down the process of how we move through life and really start to document what it is we're noticing about what's going on in our life. Now, I have some easy ways to do it that shouldn't take a lot of time, but I also have some unconventional ways that I'd love for you to try if you're game for trying something a little bit different. So first, let's open with this essay, and then we'll talk about the plans for this session. So I'm going to be reading an essay from a book called Long Quiet Highway, Waking Up America. I'll go ahead and put this information in the notes in the classroom. It's by Natalie Goldberg, and she does a lot of writing classes, and she's a very prolific writer as well. But I wanted to read the introduction from this book because I find that when you're talking again about this idea of waking up, some people hear that and they go, well, I'm already awake. But I want you to hear her perspective on it and see where you might be on the spectrum of this. Okay, here we go. There is an order of Buddhist monks in Japan whose practice is running. They are called the Marathon Monks in Mount Hai. They begin running at 1:30 a.m. and run from 18 to 25 miles per night. covering several of Mount High's most treacherous slopes. Because of the high altitude, Mount High has long, cold winters, and part of the mountain is called the slope of instant sobriety. Because it is so cold, it penetrates any kind of illusion or intoxication. The monks run all year round. They do not adjust their running schedules to snow, wind, or ice. They wear white robes when they run rather than the traditional Buddhist black. White is the color of death. There is always the chance of dying on the way. In fact, when they run, they carry with them a sheath knife and a rope to remind them to take their life by disembowelment or hanging if they fail to complete their route. After monks complete a 1,000-day mountain marathon within 7 years, they go to a 9-day fast without food, water, or sleep. At the end of the 9 days, they are at the edge of death. Completely empty, they become extremely sensitive. They can hear ashes fall from the incense sticks. They can smell food prepared miles away. Their sight is vivid and clear. And after the fast, they come back into life radiant with a vision of ultimate existence. I read about these monks in a book called The Marathon Monks of Mount High by John Stevens. It was just before I went to teach the first of 4 Sunday afternoon writing seminars at the Loft in Minneapolis. I was so excited by what I read, and naturally I wanted to share it. I stood behind the podium and carried on to 50 Midwestern writers and would-be writers about how the monks became one with the mountain they ran on, how they knew the exact time each species of bird and insect began to sing, and when the moon rose, the sun set, or the wind changed direction. I went 20 minutes into the seminars, 2 hours, telling about the monks when I looked up and paused. I guess you want to know what the marathon monks have to do with writing. Well, they have everything to do with it. The way I see it, you either break through in your writing, say what you really need to say, or head for Mount High. As a matter of fact, take a gun with you next time you go to the cafe to write. If you don't connect in your writing that day, just shoot yourself. Vague writing on Monday, off with a little toe. Tuesday, no better, the big toe. Get the idea? Why do the marathon monks go to such extremes? They want to wake up. That's how thick we human beings are. We are lazy, content in our discontent, sloppy and asleep. To wake up takes the total effort that a marathon monk can exert. Can you imagine? Now, that might seem a bit radical to your ears, but I think it really does touch on something that's so telling about our world, right? If we're all awake, why is the world not changing? And all I can say is, I'm going to start with me, and I'm going to wake up. And so this again will be an exercise to just start to move towards that understanding of being able to gauge how awake are we in our own lives. Because if we can't be awake to ourselves and what's going on in our own life, I don't know how well we can view the world around us. I hope you'll take that on a little bit and see what you think about that. All right, let's go on to the assignment. So the assignment is to look at a day in your life, right? And so I've written down a couple of ideas and I'm going to write them in the notes in the classroom as well. And I really hope that you come away from this assignment just really energized with this idea of, oh, this is going to be something different, okay? So here are ways you can do it. You can just snap pictures throughout your day on your phone. Okay. And you know how you go into your files at the end of the day and you just kind of see the pictures. And so then once you've taken those pictures throughout the day, and you can do it either throughout the day or if your time permits you to do it throughout a week, if that feels like that would be more prudent to what you're trying to accomplish, do that as well. And then you're going to look at those. And you can print them off if you want to put them in your journal, if you're actually making a journal solely for this class. It would be lovely to be able to look back later and see, but you don't have to do that. But I want you to just have a conversation with what you see in those pictures. Okay, so that's one idea. Another one is to write down the list of songs today that you really connect with, really are engaged with. And again, this could be a snapshot in a day or it can be throughout your week. And then I want you to also think about what types of food are you eating lately for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, for snacks. Now, if you really want to get at this, you can do all three of them, right? Just depends on what time constraints you're working with. Um, or you just kind of just put a few notes from each part. And again, we're just kind of gathering informations. We're being investigators in our own lives, observers, if you will. Many of you know I'm a Montessori teacher, and one of the key tools that we use in a classroom is to observe what's going on. Oh, it's really crazy in here today. Sit down and just write, and it's very interesting, write down actions, write down events, write down who's talking to who, write all these little things down that on the surface you just don't have time to see, you just see the whole. But when you go very macro, you'll start to notice some things, and I'm excited to find out what it is that you notice. So that is the assignment. I will write it out in long form for you as well, and I can't wait to see you back in the classroom. And feel free to post down here in the notes or send me an email, and I would be happy to look at it and just cheer you on. All right, see you back in the classroom soon. Well, hi there, and welcome back to lesson 2 in How to Wake Up. And this lesson is called What's the Connection? So I want to start with a reading from a book called The Art of Noticing by Rob Walker. And it's 131 Ways to Spark Creativity, Find Inspiration, and Discover Joy in the Everyday. It's a fantastic book. Again, one of those books that I'll put in our resource section. Not something you need for this class, but something you might want to peruse someday, either in your library or, pick up or maybe put it on your wish list for a holiday or birthday. All right, so what I'm reading from now is called The Art of Noticing, and so here it is. Pay attention, Susan Sontag once advised a young audience. She was speaking of the creative process, but also of living. It's all about paying attention. It's all about taking in as much of what's out there as you can and not letting the excuses and the dreariness of some of the obligations you'll soon be incurring narrow your lives. Let me say that again. It's all about taking in as much of what's out there as you can and not letting the excuses and the dreariness of some of the obligations you'll soon be incurring narrow your lives. Attention is vitality. It connects you with others. It makes you eager. Stay eager. To stay eager, to connect, to find interest in the everyday, to notice what everyone else overlooks. These are vital skills and noble goals. They speak to the difference between looking and seeing, between hearing and listening, between accepting what the world presents and noticing what matters to you. This is important, and it is also delightful. Filmmaker James Benning once described an exercise from a class he taught called Looking and Listening at the California Institute of the Arts. Here's his quote. I take 10 or 12 students someplace, an oil field in the valley, the homeless area near downtown Los Angeles, a hand-dug tunnel in the foothills, where they would head out on their own and practice paying attention. The phrase practice paying attention really struck me when I read Benning's account in a book called Draw It With Your Eyes Closed about creative assignments for art students. And it was stuck with me after. I was at the time planning a 5-week class I still teach once a year for the Products of Design graduate program at New York School of Visual Arts. And every year at some point in our class, I ask my students to practice paying attention before our next meeting. There are no other parameters. Each student resolves this deliberately vague request differently. My ambition is to provoke them into thinking about what they notice, what they miss, why it matters, and how to become better, deeper, and more original observers of the world and of themselves. And that, in turn, is why I wrote this book. And I love that. The practicing paying attention, right? If you've ever been in any sort of setting where you're giving a talk or you're, just trying to gather a group so they can come together for ideas. This idea of paying attention, how we tell children, pay attention, we make it seem like it's so easy. And maybe once upon a time it was easy, but we know that we have a society now that is full of noise. And so we have to practice this paying attention, right? This making connections, this noticing. And no wonder we can't seem to really fully be in our lives, and that the be in the moment, right? Be in the moment. Well, that's easier said than done, and here's why. Okay, so our assignment for today, we have a couple different ways of doing it. Again, if you are one that enjoys taking pictures, then go ahead and pay attention through the course of using your lens and taking pictures. But you can also just sit someplace at a coffee shop or go for a walk in your neighborhood, or even while you're walking to the mailbox. I want you to just start to pay attention. Here's one from The Art of Noticing that might be a one to just really focus in on if there's one that's not really pulling at you. It's called Looking Out the Window, right? And it says, spend 10 minutes looking out the window you most persistently ignore. Find one in your office or your bedroom or wherever, the one you so take for granted that you've forgotten it's even there, right? I can totally think of one right now that's like that. Examine the edges of what the window makes visible and find 3 things that you've never noticed. And then describe that scene. Next time you encounter a window that's new to you, stop and look. Study the view. Tally the details. Look for movement. Think about what you can't control. Now, again, just like in our prior lesson, what is good about this is you're looking out a window, and even as you're walking to that window, you might have a sense of, well, I go to this window, this is what I'm going to see, right? But I wonder if when you actually sit down at this window, what you see today. What you see today. All right, so that is our lesson for today. I also have another assignment I'm going to put in the resources. It's by an artist named Carla Songhai. If you've not heard of her before, she used to do kids art camps online. She's actually one of the first people who used to do these kids camps online for art, and they are amazing free resources. But the one I want you to pay attention to, and I'll put this link down in the notes, is she would have this sidewalk crack challenge. So basically, if you signed up for her email once a week, and I don't know if she still does it, but once a week, what would happen is a piece of a photo of a piece of sidewalk would come to you, and then your assignment would be to draw something you see in the sidewalk. Is that the most clever thing? So I will put that link down for you in the notes. So those are the 2 things you'll be working on this session. And again, if you have a notebook or if you have a scrapbook or journal that you're putting these all into, I would encourage you to do it because it'll be beautiful at the end of this class to look through all of it and see all of your awarenesses. All right, I'll see you back in the classroom soon. Make sure and put anything down below you'd like me to see, and I'll be happy to comment. Well, hello there and welcome back to lesson number 3, titled poetry, which is a connection of words a collection of words that build connection. And so when I say the word poetry, sometimes people get a little bit apprehensive, but I'm definitely going to show you a way to break it down so that it is not so apprehensive. And if you've taken my poetry class, you will already have been introduced to 10 different ways to create poetry. And so if you haven't, if you're interested in that type of thing, you can go ahead and take my other class as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple of templates for you to be able to drop your words into, so it makes it nice and easy for you to do it. But what I like about it, because we all know that when it comes to poetry, as opposed to a short story or an essay or a novel, is that the words you choose are just as important as the words you don't choose, right? Or vice versa. And so we know that there is almost a sacredness around poetry because you really have to be succinct at where you're going and even more clever um, than if you have lots of time to get your point across, right? And so, what I'd like to do is, I'd like to read a couple of poems from one of my favorite poets, Mary Oliver, and I've got some resources linked here for you to take a look at her work, because I'd like you to come at this a couple of different ways. You can choose to create your own poems, and if that's something you love to do, feel free to do that. But you could also take the words from her poems, and it is actually a style of creating a poetry to take snippets from different poems and create a poem that kind of reflects how you're feeling in the moment, which is a beautiful way to connect with poetry as well. So that's what our assignment is going to be for today. But again, it's about um, taking something, a form of communication that maybe you're not used to using. And again, it's another opportunity that through that lens, you might get an awakening within that you may not be able to get at by simply talking about what's going on, right? All right, so let me read you a couple of poems by Mary Oliver, and then we will go on to that lesson. Okay, the first one, so this is from an anthology of her works, Mary Oliver, New and Collected or Selected Poems. Um, so here is the first one. It's called Reckless Poem. Today again, I am hardly myself. It happens over and over. It is heaven sent. It flows through me like the blue wave. Green leaves, you may believe this or not, have once or twice burst from the tips of my fingers. Somewhere deep in the woods, in the reckless seizure of spring. Though, of course, I also know that other song, the sweet passion of oneness. Just yesterday, I watched an ant crossing a path through the tumbled pine needles she toiled. And I thought, she will never live another life but this one. And I thought, if she lives her life with all her strength, is she not wonderful and wise? And I continued this up the miraculous pyramid of everything until I came to myself. And still, even in these northern woods, on these hills of sand, I have flown from the window of myself to become white heron, gray whale, fox, hedgehog, camel. Oh, sometimes already my body has felt like the body of a flower. Sometimes already my heart is a red parrot perched among the strange dark trees, flapping and screaming. Here's another one by her called Patience. What is the good life now? Why, look here. Consider the moon's white crescent, rounding slowly over the half month to still another perfect circle. The shining eye that lightens the hills, that lays down the shadows of the branches of the trees, that summons the flowers to open their sleepy faces and look up into the heavens. I used to hurry everywhere and leaped over the running creeks. There wasn't time enough for all the wonderful things I could think to do in a single day. Patience comes to the bones before it takes root in the heart, as another good idea. I say this as I stand in the woods and study the patterns of the moon shadows or stroll down into the waters that now, late summer, have also caught the fever and hardly move from one eternity to another. All right, so as we go into this lesson, remember, no pressure about having to create your own poetry. If it is something that you'd like to try, again, I will be dropping different templates for you to try. And then if you prefer to just look at the works of some various poets that I've put into the resources, feel free to do that and pick and choose. There's something that you may have heard of called a blackout poem, made famous by Austin Kleon, which I will refer to him later, one of my favorite artists and authors. And what he did is he would take a poem and then he would just like slow down, again, that process of noticing, and black out certain words or circle certain words. And at the end, there'd be its own poem formed within the poem. And so that's another fun way, again, to get at things, life really trying to speak to you through these apparatuses, if you will, that are being presented to you, which are different from what you would do in a normal daily routine. So can't wait to see you back here. Again, post anything that you'd like to share, and I'll see you back here for the next lesson. Hello and welcome back to lesson 5. And this lesson is entitled Connection Through Vintage Pictures. So vintage, right? That's so subjective, but it would just be a picture that maybe is from before your around your childhood time, maybe a little older than that. And what I have found when I've practiced using vintage pictures as in my journal writing is that there is some sort of connection to be found in those pictures, whether it be something that is in the environment or something in the way that the people are connecting in the picture, or even just something about the time that you know that this picture was taken. And so in your resources, you're going to find pictures like that. But if you have access to them, or if you have old magazines or things like that, that would work just as well for this exercise. And what you're going to do is you're going to take 2 or 3 pictures and you're going to just free write a little bit about what is connecting you to what you're seeing in that picture. Okay. I'm happy to introduce you to another poet, and I'm going to drop some of his work in the resources as well. His name is David White, and he is another one that really gives you that invitation to awaken to just experiences and feelings and how they're sitting in your body and your soul, and just helps you to find words when sometimes you can't find the words to express what you might be experiencing and feeling. So I'm going to share a couple of his poems with you, and then we'll talk again about the assignment, and then I'll have you on your way. So his first one is called Enough. These few words are enough. And if not these words, this breath. And if not this breath, this sitting here, this opening to life, we have refused again and again until now. It is not enough to know. It is not enough to follow the inward road conversing in secret. It is not enough to see straight ahead, to gaze at the unborn, thinking the silence belongs to you. It is not enough to hear even the tiniest edge of rain. You must go to the place where everything waits. There, where you finally rest, even one word will do. One word or the palm of your hand turning outward in the gesture of gift. And how we are truly amazed to find the great silence asking so little. One word only. Here's another one called Second Sight. Sometimes you need the ocean light and colors you've never seen before, painted through an evening sky. Sometimes you need your God to be a simple revelation, not a telling word of wisdom. Sometimes you need only the first shyness that comes from being shown things far beyond your understanding, so you can fly and be free by being still and by being here. And then there are times you need to be brought to ground by touch and touch alone. To know those arms around you and to make your home in the world just by being wanted. To see those eyes looking back at you as eyes should see you at last. Seeing you as you've always wanted to be seen. Seeing you as you yourself had always wanted to see the world. Isn't that beautiful? Well, you might have noticed on the back of my wall here, ready to see the beauty. And this comes from something my daughter, who at this time is 16, but when she was 4 years old, we lived in a townhouse, and she loved wearing princess dresses. And it was an upstairs, downstairs. And so what she would do in the morning when she'd put on whatever she was going to wear that day, she would stand at the top of the stairs and she would go, "Ready to see the beauty?" And that has stayed with me all of these years. There is a lot out there in the world to be seeing. And there's a lot inside to be seeing. And we're working on this idea of being awake, right? But I want you to awake to the beauty inside you. So, today's assignment, those vintage pictures, the poems that I've added in the resources. I really hope you're enjoying this process of bringing these different types of communication, if you will, and inviting yourself into that communication and that connection and conversation. All right, see you back here for the next lesson. Hello, and welcome back to lesson number 5, entitled Look Up, Look Down, as I'm looking down right now. I hope that you are continuing to enjoy this process. And I want to refer to the book that we started from at the beginning, talking about inner excavation, because there is a series in here where the author, Liz Lemereau, asks various artists to answer the question, "Who am I?" And I wanted to introduce you to a couple of artists that I think you will enjoy, and enjoy what their answer was for this question. And then I will be inviting you to do the same. All right, so the first artist, her name is Susanna Conway, and I have known of her work for at least 15 years. She is one who has done a lot of her life's work around photography and conversation through photography, so I will put her information in the resources. But her answer to the question, who are you? This is what she says. I am a memory catcher, a seer, a storyteller, a wide ocean, an explorer, a seeker of solitude, a work in progress. Let me share some words also from the artist named Stephanie Lee. Here are her words. When asked, "Who are you?" she says, "I am that moment just before sunrise when the world is still chilled and warmth is whispering in. I am the in-breath before a belly laugh, the out-breath after a hole is dug for a new tree, when the scent of the fresh earth draws in through the skin. I am the bark on the trunk, the protective and durable husk that guards the tender heart. I am the heaving earth and laughing roots. I am the leaf on the tree, there up from the tip of the branch, quivering with my brothers and sisters, leaning to make room for the opulent bloom. I am the curious bee that hovers near, drawn close by the lure of the sweet scent. I am the white on that bloom and the pulse in its stem and the fragrance within that reminds you of being reborn. So I'd like you to take some time with that question. Who are you? And maybe you're starting to sense some changes in how you would have answered that question even before you started this class. So maybe go through what you have created so far and decide for yourself what way you'd like to structure it. So the first way with Miss Conway is she just did snippets of 2, 3 phrases. And the way in which Miss Lee approached it is she did kind of stream of consciousness phrases, sentences. So you can approach it however you like or something in between, uniquely yours. But what you would do is you would write, "Who are you?" And then you would write, "I am," or I I am a, or I am n, or I am, and then just start to free write what those words would be. And I will feel free as well to put mine down so you can see what I wrote way back in 2012 and compare it with what I'm writing today. And yeah, make sure and share anything you'd like to share. And yeah, I will see you back here for the next lesson. Hi there, and welcome back to the lesson entitled Find Your Breath. And I want to have a conversation about breath, but first I'd like to invite you to a meditation. And so, what I would like you to do is to find a place where you can sit quietly. And even if you need to put some earbuds in, or if you're sitting in your car, just find a space where you feel comfortable to either sit quietly with your hands in your lap or to close your eyes, just to be able to somehow block out what's going on around you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what's called a Tibetan bell sound, or a singing bowl, I should say a bowl. And that will kind of center you. And I'm going to read a meditation over you. And it is the idea of God being our rescuer, being there, being seen, and noticing where you are in the practice of sitting and breathing, and what your relationship with sitting and breathing feels like in this moment. All right. So pause me if you need to. And then when you come back, we'll start. You start to notice the quiet. You notice, but not really noticing where you are or how you got there. Imagine you're on the edge of a spacious meadow. There's a stream nearby and flowers everywhere. You hear birds. You see butterflies. A grove of trees partly shades you from the sun. You slowly realize you're not alone. You've actually been resting on a comforting lap. Looking into the eyes of your comforter, into the eyes of God, you ask the question on your mind, how am I safe? God smiles and holds you closer. You close your eyes as God strokes your hair and begins to speak. You were in the middle of a storm. You felt the waves surround you. You were going under. But I saw you, and I rescued you. You slowly remember a crazy and unbelievable scene. The sky was dark. The waves were rough. Your stomach tightens with fear as you frantically tread water, gulping it down, sinking. You feel numbing cold. You taste the choking saltiness. Your confused mind is frozen in fear, knowing your strength is gone and you're about to drown. Then a powerful earthquake shakes the mountains, and God appears, and smoke billows from God's nostrils. You see fire come from God's mouth, and God's voice thunders from heaven. God splits open the sky and flies on the wings of the wind to your rescue. Strong hands reach down and take hold of you, pulling you from the deep waters. You struggle to catch your breath, and shock mixes with fear and exhaustion. You lose consciousness as you're lifted to safety. As your mind returns to the peace of the meadow, God gently says, I brought you to this spacious place, and I rescued you because you are my delight, my child, and my love. Rest. You are safe. Slowly bring your awareness back. If you'd like, you can take a moment to pause and do some writing about how this experience was for you. And when you come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about finding your breath. Again, I'm referring to the book Inner Excavation. And here's what she says about finding your breath. Here's some tips that she offers. Find a comfortable way to sit and close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths. Notice how your breath moves in your body until you feel as though you are only the inhalations and the exhalations. Then find your center. Notice where it is. Let your next inhalation begin at this center. And as you continue to breathe, try to let your mind rest in the center. And when a thought pulls you away from the center, notice the thought and then invite your mind to come back to rest in your breath, in this center. And here's some notes she made about this practice. Try this for 10 to 20 breath cycles, and over time, increase this for a few minutes. And as you continue this practice, you will find that simply connecting and reconnecting to your breath with intention, even for just a breath or two, will bring you a sense of inner calm and peace. So I'm not sure, this definitely is individual for everyone, how easy it is for you to sit and allow a meditation to occur and you listen to it. I mean, it's not always easy. I can say that it really does depend on what I'm experiencing that day, how easily I can go into a meditation. So if you found that you couldn't do that easily or quickly, that's no judgment. That's just an awareness again. And this is what we're all about, is just awakening to the awareness of what we're doing, why we're struggling with certain things, and even to go, oh, I didn't realize I was having a particularly unbalanced day or feeling in my body, and now I know just from this simple exercise. And what I would like you to do, I'm going to put some journaling notes down in the resources, but these are some questions I'd like you to think about when it comes to breath and finding your breath. What does noticing your breath mean to you? Why do you think connecting with your breath is valuable? And what experience have you had with breath work? Okay. In the resources, there will also be what I've called breathing coloring pages. So if there's something that maybe you would like to experience where you just do a breathing exercise, but maybe incorporate it either with music or with coloring, a coloring page, that's another opportunity for you to see that maybe this is the best way you incorporate breath work into your everyday or as often as you'd like your practice of breath work. So, again, I'm inviting you to use those resources however you choose, and I'll see you back here for the next lesson. Hello, and welcome to lesson 7, which is, in essence, our final session of creating what is going to be your scrapbook journal, notebook of your progress throughout these last few weeks in this course. And I really hope that you have experienced some great revelations, felt some wisdom, some clarity, and also picked up a habit or two that you want to start to incorporate into your everyday life. So, this last technique, if you will, um, is called What's in the Shadows. And again, another opportunity for you to re engage with yourself and make some discoveries about yourself. And also to take that discovery and that information and bring that clarity and wisdom into the decisions you make on a daily basis. So, what is What's in the Shadows? It's pretty similar to when we did the sidewalk cracks challenge, where we looked at the cracks of the sidewalk from Carla Sondheim, and we just noticed what we saw, rather by either drawing it over the top of the sidewalk crack or maybe just writing some words next to it. And so, in that same way, I have put in the resources different shadow pictures of shadows in general, some a little bit more abstract and some very clearly what you will be able to see what it is. And so from there, I would like you to engage with those shadows. What you see, you can draw on the top of them. Again, I'm offering ideas, but I really don't want you to be confined by my suggestions. I want you to do what it is that you feel and experience as you look at these photographs. But I also want you to perhaps take one of those photographs and see which one most aligns with who you are today. And I would like you to answer these questions. Who are you? Who or what inspires you today? And finally, how do you nurture yourself? Who are you? Who or what inspires you? And how do you nurture yourself? Now, that is part 1 of the lessons. Part 2 is, again, a writing exercise, but this time not having to do with poetry or phrasing, but maybe to write a little story or an essay based on one of these 3 prompts. And again, I say one of the prompts, but you can feel free to use all of them if you'd like. But here are the prompts. Write about a time you did something you didn't want to do. Or complete this sentence and tell a story with it. This is not about blank. And the last one is something seems different. And so this was inspired by a book of writing prompts that I found maybe about 5 years ago. It was called The Writer's Book of Days. And every day, kind of going back to the beginning when I read that essay from Natalie Goldberg, every day you sat down and you write based on whatever that prompt is, right? And so we'd get a little bit squirrely some days, I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't necessarily write about that prompt, but I would write something. So I at least stayed in the vein of writing. But again, what it caused in me is sooner or later you start to bring these things forth that you have not thought about in a long time, or you didn't realize that you were thinking about it. That's more than anything what the challenge is to why we cannot seem to wake up. It is because we're disappointed, we're sad, we're angry, we're in despair. And rather than acknowledge and move through that, we just shut it down. And that works for a while. It worked very nicely for me in my 20s and my 30s. And in my 40s, I started not wanting to get out of bed. And in my 50s, it started to feel like it's too late. Time has run out. And that's a very sad thing, to think that you're going to go day after day after day thinking it's too late. Time has run out. And so the way you can kind of get around that is to go through it, to be more clear about what it might be too late for. And even more, to ask yourself, is it too late, or does it just need to be reframed? And so, with the shadows, who are you? Who or what inspires you? And how do you nurture yourself? With the essay prompts, write about a time you did something you did not want to do. Or, this is not about blank. Or, something seems different. All right, enjoy this lesson and come back and we'll do some final thoughts at the end. And as always, make sure and post anything down in the comments below, and I would be happy to cheer you on, encourage you, and give feedback if you'd like. All right, see you here for the next lesson. All right, hello, you guys. We come to the end of our conversations together through pictures, through poems, through essays, through drawing and coloring. And I really hope that you've enjoyed this process. I really hope that you have woken up ready to see the beauty, right? I wanted to end this with a poem that I actually wrote. Oh my goodness. It is actually a little over 10 years ago when I first went through this book, Inner Excavation. And again, feel free to buy the book. I only touched on maybe one or two of the exercises in that book, so you could buy that book and find plenty more to do if you wanted to continue on this notebook that you have started creating. And I would invite you to do so. There's some beautiful work in there that really has encouraged and inspired me. And I'm going to take pictures of some of my notebook pages and I'm going to post them in the resources. But here's a poem that kind of sums up how I was experiencing this when I did my notebook. And I invite you to do the same on one of your pages at the end. And perhaps even to make a selfie or take a selfie of yourself and put it in there. All right, so here's what it says. And I entitle it Just Right. WRITE. I stand taller, stronger, wrapped in prayer, dressed in substance, an inner knowing from within. I stand heart-filled, at peace, in tune with my life, aligned, present. I stand waiting, hoping, striving, gentle, like leaves on trees floating to the ground, bowed in adoration for who I am seeing as me. Thank you again so much for being a part of this class. Make sure and check out all the other classes that I have. I mentioned that poetry class that I've created, so feel free if you really enjoyed that poetry piece. We really delve in deep for how to create those different styles of poems. I also have a few painting classes where I teach you how to paint in the style of known and maybe less well known artists. And then I also have those meditation mandala classes as well that I would invite you to join me in as well. So thank you. It has been a pleasure and an honor to be a part of this process with you. And I truly hope that you have enjoyed this class. See you soon.